Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Economics Unplugged with Praful Raj. We engage in insightful but relatable conversation with economists and professors, exploring the complexities and the dynamics of the Indian economy. Today's episode dives into one of the hottest topics in the global trade, the tariff tussle between India and the United States. Before we talk about the new tariff structure, let us know the current tariff numbers overall. So, India's average tariff rate is 17%, while the US average tariff rate is 3.3%. Trade weighted average tariff further emphasizes the disparity where India's tariff rate is 65%, while the US stands at just 4%. The gap is even wider in agriculture, where India's simple average tariff is 39% compared to 5% in the US. So, it's not that India is being unfair, but overall, developing countries' tariffs are higher than the tariffs in developed countries. One of the most obvious reasons that we know is that we as a developing nations have to protect our businesses among many other important factors. Now, coming to the new tariff structure which has been imposed by United States on 2nd April 2025 is of 26%. Now, this 26% is a combination of 10% of universal tariff and 16% is additional to India. Now, this 16% varies for different countries. So, the question is the US being unfair or just finally retaliating? And more importantly, how do these factors and trade wars impact all of us, from textile workers in Surat to makhana producers in Bihar? So, today I have got a sharp mind with me, a trade economist, Dr. Arpita Mukherjee, to unpack the data, the politics, and the real stake. So, let's unplug the noise around the tariff and talk truths. Dr. Arpita Mukherjee, who is a professor in Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations. For over 25 years, she has served as an economic policy researcher with various governments across worlds, including India, UK, Australia, UE, and the United States. So let's hear from her what she has to say on the current tariff structure. Thank you so much, Dr. Mukherjee, for joining my channel Economics Unplugged, and welcome once again. We have done another podcast last year on international relations with India. So, as we know, like today is we are recording this on 4th of April, and day before yesterday on 2nd of April, United States implemented an tariff of 26% to India. On India, it's like 10% is universal tariff and 16% is additional. So, how first question is like how India is likely to respond to this new reciprocal tariff that has been said, and what will be the impact on a businesses and consumer to be very specific in terms of the competitiveness of Indian manufacturers.
If you go through the drama, the entire drama which led up to the tariff implementation was that first US announced that India is a high tariff country, and for that India did two or three things. That India first in the budget it unilaterally reduced tariff in a lot of commodities that goes to the US, and then it also reduced tariff on the whiskey, which was after the budget, and then the both sides decided to do a mini deal. So all of that was aiming at tariff reduction, okay, on both sides. Like India showed an intention that I would do a tariff reduction, but but nobody actually around the globe ever understood what is a reciprocal tariff and how it is going to be calculated. So there were a lot of thought process that reciprocal tariff may take the tariff of the products that are going to the US, or may, and then look at the tariff of the products that are coming to India, and then look at the tariff balance. Here the calculation is not based on the tariff balance but on the trade balance. Now Now let me give, now in that scenario, when the two parties were announcing a trade agreement, the and on April 2, when they showed the tariff line, it shows that if you have a trade agreement with the US, you may be worse off than not having a trade agreement, right? Like you look at Vietnam, and you look at India. India is better off than Vietnam. Okay. And if you have the globally a very low tariff like UK and Singapore, you still will get a tariff 10% and then the normal 10%. So the trade agreement that India was thinking, it's just an economic, my view is that, how does it go and how does it sell you at this kind of a juncture. The second thing that I haven't thought is that I think India's position is correct, and India's position is do nothing, make no statement, do nothing, and do it well, and just say that we are better off because others are worse off. It is a relative position in the US market, and that's true actually. Vietnam, if you look at textile and apparel, Vietnam, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, all our competitors are worse off than what we are. So we should be somewhere happy. In my context, in the entire thing, we should be happy.
So you mentioned that we know the reciprocal tariff is basically putting the tariff on the same product that has been doing both import and export. Isn't like by doing this undermining the concept of tariff in by developing countries for developed countries?
The entire concept that developing countries should get some benefit, and this is what you're talking about is trade rules.
Trade rules.
Okay. And the entire story of reciprocal tariff begins from the concept of not trade rules, but a deficit in the treasury. So it is talked about as an emergency situation, an emergency situation where the trade rules doesn't apply, and let me make some quick money from the imports. That's the immediate view of the tariff, as you may see it. While they can talk about anything else, the immediate view is let me put it 2-3 months and let everybody go through the pain of 2-3 months and let me make the money. Had it been to promote the American industry, it would have been that I am taking tariff and that money is given as a subsidy to the American manufacturer. That is not happening. It is not saying that, okay, the entire world manufacturing, China subsidizes its manufacturer, so let me subsidize my manufacturer. So it is not about helping their manufacturing sector to grow. Like if I talk about India, when India imposed higher tariff on automobile and auto component, it also put electronic manufacturers on the PLI scheme.
Yes.
So there was a subsidy given to the manufacturer. Here there is no bonus for these manufacturers who are now going to import at a higher rate. So it is not about making India, it is make in America. It is about just meeting the treasury deficit. So that is the broader concept of the tariff.
So do you think it will be sustained for a longer period of time, or as you mentioned that maybe after a few months or maybe in a year or two when their treasuries are filled again, and instead of trade deficit, probably for some time there will be trade surplus to some countries, and then it will be back to the normal tariff rates? Is there any such possibilities?
This is not a long-term solution for America to become the global leader.
In fact.
So America, it is not a long-term solution from a leadership perspective. Okay, China imposed barriers on American technology company and grew. So there are histories. We also imposed high tariff on automotive, and we had an automotive sector growing. Our tariff on tariff can lead to certain growth, but it doesn't make you global leader. Global leader also has to have a lot of, and it doesn't lead to shift in manufacturing, because if American companies have to shift their supply chain, it needs 3 to 4 years, and actually now is the time for American companies to go and bargain for subsidies. And when they bargain for subsidies, that is where the treasury may not be filled. Let me
it will come back.
Their cost of production is rising. If they want to retain their market, they have to lower the cost. So therefore they have no option but to ask for subsidy. And when they ask for subsidy, they cannot become manufacturing hub. The biggest example of that is India in itself. We are both Indians, we know. Had we Had tariff helped us to let our manufacturing grow with all the policies aligned to manufacturing, we would have been the world global manufacturing leader and exporter. We are not.
By this time,
Ah,
definitely. We
ah.
have more than
So
100%.
therefore, and we also have much more advantage than Americans in terms of low cost labor and other things. Yet we are not.
Yes.
So I don't think so that I don't think so they can do anything apart from at this stage. And if there is a tariff balance is an argument. Now then, what the trade agreement does? Trade agreement reduces tariff on both sides. Now, if we reduce tariff if America reduces tariff on our products will sell better in the American market.
Correct.
However, if we reduce tariff to zero on their product, like Harley Davidson zero tariff, who is going to buy? How many are going to buy?
Yeah, definitely, because it's still
So
a
the deficit will increase. Logically, the deficit will increase. It will not reduce. Now they are trading Harley Davidson for mangoes. Now, if mangoes you reduce the cost of Alfonso mangoes, they are so unique. Americans will have it. But if you reduce the cost of Harley Davidson to zero or the Californian wines to zero, they will still not be able to compete with the pricing of the Sulas of the India. So they will not be able to meet the deficit through zero to zero tariff.
got it, got it. So, I mean, whatever whether it is to fill the treasury, whether it is right or wrong, or to become the global manufacturer, for now it has been imposed. So, so let's talk on like how India can be can take advantage of it. So, coming to that, my another question, the second question will be: so as we know, like if imposing tariff on Indian export makes our products more expensive in US, which will reduce our competitiveness. However, now the competition is a very relative term. Competition to whom? Which country? So if the government, so the question is that if the government planned this strategically, could this situation actually works in our favor? Why? Because especially if we consider the competition that is with the China and the Vietnam, and the tariff for China is 34% and Vietnam is 46%. And second thing, like the closest competitors is definitely Vietnam along with China. And as a in India, we have luxury and leeway of having a more subsidies to manufacturer, but probably Vietnam does not have, because their economy is quite dependent on manufacturing. But our economy, we have some leeway to to do some up and down. So do you think it can go in our favor?
First point is that the tariff has been announced yesterday. But America and Vietnam also hesitated. Now, the Vietnam has announced that I will reduce the tariff to zero. Now, if Vietnam reduces the tariff to zero to all American products, let's say all American products, then also the trade deficit will increase. Now, see, the point is that because they put the trade deficit, the tariff reduction to American product will not happen. America's trade balance will not improve because of the wrong formula being used to calculate. So the so therefore that is your first, that is the answer to your first point, that if you are calculating both, if you are using both trade balance and tariffs, you will neither get either. Okay, you can increase your markets because you are now countries were trying to reduce the trade. They were trying to actually give America favorable situation. Now they will not give America favorable situation because they will think, how do we actually manage? Because now you're telling Vietnam that you, or India, that you have to force every people to eat pistachio and American Californian nut and American apple. That is no government can do, because you are not able to create your demand for your product in other market. That's a weakness of the economy rather than the strength. So this is your first point. Second point is that you are misconceptually incorrect that Vietnam does not give subsidy. Vietnam smartly gives WTO compliant subsidies. Okay, so Vietnam is very WTO compliant. They give subsidies and they give better quality of the subsidies than we give, which is WTO compliant. So that is the point. So therefore, Vietnam did create certain manufacturing competitiveness. Your third point is that because others have a high tariff, are we at a good end? Because other have a high tariff, it looks apparently that India may be at a better end, but it looks apparently, I'm telling you apparently, because everybody has double my tariff, all my competitors, so I'm good. But if the product goes through the FTA route, will they honor the FTA? Is this applicable to product outside the FTA route? Or all product, because they have called it national emergency, I would say that they would not honor the FTA. If they do not honor the FTA, then the situations will be very different. And the other thing is that a product from a country is very specific.
Yeah.
Now, if Americans are sourcing, if Americans are having some kind of a Greek cheese, or they are having some kind of a Darjeeling tea or Assam tea, they are not able to just change their supply chain and go to Kenya. But this entire game has a lot of loopholes. And the loophole is, look at UAE. Is UAE there?
No.
No. So UAE is a transshipment hub. So you can now take your product through transshipment hubs. So there are many loopholes in their rush to go and impose tariff. They have imposed tariff even in countries which you don't even figure out in the top 50 trade partners, where they have
like more than 200 countries they have imposed all the
uh-huh.
not even
So
heard of.
basically, what they have tried to do is that they have tried to do a rush things, but they have missed out major countries which are transshipment hubs like the UAE. And because they have missed out these major countries, these will drive the America gain or loss, because the products can now go through the transshipment. They can change their policies and impose on these countries. These countries will be so interesting to watch. Now there's suppose a product, and how do you apply rules of origin? You don't apply, like, only in FTA you apply. So now you cannot apply RO. So every product can now go to UAE and face a 10% tariff and go to America. So this is miscalculation of trade experts, I must say, to the nth order. So therefore, they haven't really taken into account the roles of the transshipment hub. Even Singapore as a transshipment hub has a very low kind of a tariff. Now, how does Singapore react? So Singapore can be export and import hub for both.
Correct.
That's where you have to think about 10% Singapore transshipment hub, nowhere mentioned about UAE. So Singapore may get 10 normal, over and above 10 for the country. UAE gets only 10. So you have to rethink your supply chains to America, and American companies will surely find out some of the loopholes, like the one that I am talking about.
Yeah, Deb. So one, just if you can give the example. So you're saying UAE is definitely not on that list, and it's a transit where even as a Singapore, which has only approximately 10%. So you're saying that, suppose take the example of maybe Vietnam or China, India. So they will first export it to UAE, and then from UAE they will export to US. So the tariff is probably less than 10% or zero. This is what you are trying to talking about, the loophole or something else?
This is the loophole.
Okay, this is the
This is the loophole, because they have not done a supply chain mapping. They have not done a product wise mapping. See, basically, the point is like this: there are final products, there are intermediate product. Every product Americans don't manufacture, and setting up a manufacturing unit, buying machines, starting manufacturing is not a one-day job. Because they have put the tariff in such a big differential and high, and with the trade balance, not with the zero tariff markets. If they had put the tariff as a zero tariff markets, they would have really earned the revenue properly. But they haven't done a non-tariff equivalent of the tariff, which they should have done. They have not done a currency fluctuation equivalent, which they should have done. And because they have so many loopholes, they have not considered the transshipment hubs. This can be very different. Results are very unpredictable, because nowhere in the history this has been done anywhere before.
Okay, so coming back to, I mean, even if it will be there for 2-3 months or 6 months, so which sectors which is more vulnerable for India, like even in the short term, what do you think, which are the sectors will?
Basically, basically they haven't done, apart from auto, they haven't given the sectoral picture.
Yes.
I don't know whether they will give a sectoral picture. They did talk about agro processing being agri being difficult, but they did not give a sectoral. See, basically they are doing their. So if you say which sector is vulnerable, first of all, America needs to know which sectors they are losing. The main study that they needed to do, which they did not do, is what is my export potential, okay, what is the market giving, and what I can export to India, and where am I not able to export. I, logically speaking, if I would to do the study, I would have picked up those kind of products, but they haven't done that. They have done it in a very trade balance minimizing kind of a thing, because they wanted to show trade balance, because they wanted to overrule the FTA. So they wanted to show a national emergency. A national emergency under the legal terms of the FTAs can come under war, severe balance of payment crisis, like that.
Yeah.
So in a severe balance of, so they are trying to show severe balance of payment crisis. So they had to use national emergency so that they cannot be legally challenged. And severe balance of payment crisis is kind of a national emergency. So they wanted to show that. Because they want to show that, they have not been able to actually touch the core issues. Why am I not able to export? I may not be able to export because of tariff, or because of non-tariff measures, or because of currency. These, but they haven't touched the other two.
Yes. So I was asking this sector question. So for example, just for people to
See, Praful, to answer your sector question, is that now only auto sector has covered. They have not talked about any sector. So irrespective of the sector, so my agriculture, whether if I put 100% on Americans, they are putting 26%.
no, understand. No, no.
Or and
Okay.
plus 10%. So they, what I'm trying to tell you is that they have not gone sectoral. If you read the USTR note, they
Yes,
are
they have
not
not
going
gone full
sectoral.
sectoral, but sorry to cut. But the thing is that suppose any product, let's take any product on which the tariff was suppose 5%. Now the additional 26. So it will be first is 10, which is universal, and then it will be 16. So the
Correct.
total tariff will be 31%,
No,
right?
no. The point is that we don't know. That is what I'm trying to say. We don't know whether it is first 10 and then 16. It can be first 10 and then 26. First of all, try to understand the numbers, because the numbers are not very clear. Is it 10 plus 26? Because 10 is universal, then comes the country. It is not that first 10, then 26. Let me bring it to your notice. Then there are exclusion of certain products, and you have to look if those products India is exporting, then India doesn't face that tariff. Now let us look at a product like textile and apparel. Textile and apparel, which America has used to have a tariff of around 9%, average will now be we will now be say 26%, because every product has now 26% country level. But Vietnam will have some 40% tariff. I can't remember the names of the tariffs of each of these countries, but each of these countries tariff will be applied, correct?
Correct. Vietnam is 46,
So
China is 34.
okay, so 46 on Vietnam. Now you need to see the competitiveness of these. Now you have to see that if the Vietnam, so it is a textile product category that we are exporting. Who is our competitor? Suppose if I am exporting cotton product, who is my competitor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is the tariff line? Now, in this, if I reduce the trade balance, suppose if I want to reduce the trade balance in textile, should I buy American cotton? Now, if I buy American cotton, then my trade balance will reduce, because but it will still be overall imbalance. So that is, it is, companies now have to look at the markets, the product, the similar kind of products that they can source, do the tariff line, and if they want to go to the easier route, go to UAE and sell.
It's okay. So I think so if we have to summarize this entire, like, what are the 2, 3 main points that it might favor India or it might not favor India in short term, because I think this will be short term. In my opinion, it cannot be long term, because as you mentioned that it has not been categorized, the supply chain has not been properly thought and everything. So what are in a short line, what are 2, 3 things that you can think India can gain or not?
2, 3 things that India needs to do is to first do nothing. wait and watch, do nothing and do it well is my suggestion. And India has really taken that right decision. Prime Minister went to BIMSTEC, so we look like business as usual. I think absolutely marvelous position on part of India. Second marvelous position was they went and met Trump, and they kind of teased him, so he had to say it is a great friend and stuff like that. If you have a real war with China, you have nowhere to go but India. So he also knows that he cannot totally bully China and India with the same pace. So I think that India is relatively, you have to look at the geostrategic, geopolitical angle. Maybe start the FTA, but think it through, because if trade balance is calculated, FTA can lead to India to a higher tariff levels like Vietnam than before. So we need to really think it through and do certain internal calculations, because this kind of maths, it arrived only 2 days ago, is uncalled for in the history of trade. Okay, so this is the first time, but definitely what we need to do is, as of now, we are not worse off. This is one thing, we are in a good position. If you compare to, if Bangladesh used to have GSP, Vietnam used to have a FTA, now they have equalized everything.
Yes.
Okay, so in this entire story, we are in a, so if everybody is facing a brunt, we are facing a lower brunt. So we will be still be more competitive. But will that lead to shift in global value chains? Will companies come to India and export? Then why not Dubai? Is my question. That is what I am trying to tell you. That is it. But will it increase our exports to the Americans? In my opinion, it may also increase our exports to the Americans, because now we are better than the other countries. But
This exactly my second point was that only, that since other countries will have higher tariff, India will export more to US, and that will again lead to the failure of that
see,
deficit problem.
we have secured two or three things. One is that we have secured our pharmaceutical. That's absolutely, I am
Yeah,
telling you
yes.
what, India US negotiations are going pretty good. We have secured our pharmaceutical because they have kept it outside. Of course, auto we do not export, so we may cry a lot, but auto we hardly export to the Americans. So therefore, auto tariff doesn't matter for us. For us, what it really mattered would be the agri tariff. Agri tariff is far higher than the 26% which they have imposed. So I don't, and they have 40% agri tariff also. If they put a universal 26% tariff, they are reducing tariff in our milk and milk products, okay, from 40 to 26. So therefore, in their entire tariff game, now if they say that I'm putting a 10% and 36% tariff, that is also lower than what our dairy used to face in America. It is a good time to actually sell dairy to America. It is so I don't think we are really in a bad situation. Textile and apparel, it is a good time to test the market for textile and apparel, because the GSP loss that we had, we actually may not have it now. Will our industry, which was ready to ask zero for zero, should ask zero for zero at this stage? No.
No, yeah.
You sit and watch and you say whatever is your tariff, it will be our tariff. That is the approach to the negotiation. You give me one, I give you one, not zero for zero. So you have to change your negotiating strategies and action. It will take some time to discuss those, and even if what they give and we give, the trade balance will be positive in our side. So that is the thing that we need to, if we are trying to reduce the trade balance, that effort we should not put in. We should tell them, do whatever you want and try to buy, keep them happy with buying, arms, weapons, etc., etc., investment, attracting investment, etc., etc. This is the right time actually for India to do certain reforms. And I must say, to please American companies, clean up your FDI regime.
Okay, great. So
Allow inventory based FDI, clean up your retail FDI regime, remove the policy, talk to your domestic players, remove the policy, implement special and differential treatment unilaterally for your domestic retailers. Do not link it to the FDI policy, and then clean up your domestic regime. You may put zoning regulation, etc., etc., but apparently look that you are attracting American investment, because it is everywhere. It is not trade which is working, it is the industry going and telling. Let the industry go and tell good stories about India. That's the picture that you need to create.
Okay. So one last question in this, like we have not discussed about WTO, World Trade Organization. So I also don't know. So is there any role of WTO here, and or how they are going to react this, or is there any repercussion, or will they intervene in this kind of everyone is expecting the trade war or something like that. So what do you have to say on this part?
See, the point is that the only way to reciprocally challenge is the way that Canada did. Canada said that I will charge you if you go through this route. I will not give you electricity. They did not cover energy. Okay. Now, the only way to challenge is that that way. The WTO dispute settlement is not working. As you know, America was the first, did kill the WTO, and America is never interested in reviving the WTO, because then if after Trump, many of his measures were kind of revoked by Biden, right? But he did not revoke the measure of the dispute settlement. So basically, WTO has very limited role in this. Other countries joining together, and in that case, that other countries join together, I don't think India can now go and join China. That's my personal feeling, because of the geostrategic reasons. So now America has kind of put the tariff on its geostrategic partners, friends, enemies alike. Okay, so this is a national emergency. Now the lawyers have to read through the documents to find, because severe trade imbalance is called a national emergency in a trade framework. If you go through the WTO, you will say that you will be penalized in the WTO unless otherwise there is severe situation like severe trade imbalance, war, etc. Because if you don't do, if under the severity you can do, and under the severity he is saying it is a national emergency. Now the national emergency is something which the legal team needs to think through, that whether and how this is a national emergency and how long it can be a national emergency. That's what I'm trying to tell you, that severity of the situation calls for severity of the action, and WTO dispute settlement is not working. So there are also trade agreements. Under the trade agreements there can be dispute settlements. Now America's that is what one needs to see, how dispute settlements will work, how MFNizations will work. Now, other countries like Japan, etc., have to look at their trade agreements. Now, and in some cases, revise their policy. Now, if Japan has a 700% tariff, I don't know, on American rice, why did they have it? God knows. Who will have American rice? But suppose if you remove the tariff, will people have it? Is my biggest question. Now, that is the biggest that what you need to do is you need to relax tariff in some cases, where you need to see whether how your domestic market reacts to the Americans. They will also be happy that I have got some success, because they will not get any success in trade balance. Let them get some happiness through success in tariffs. Okay, so there is two component of this. Now I don't think that's bad, like making certain announcements, like I'll go 0 for 0 if they go sectoral. If they don't go sectoral, there is no point in giving them sectoral. But at the way they have gone into this tariff, there is no point in. What they should have done is that I have done a trade agreement with Vietnam 0 for 0, but there are 5 products category which I want to sell. Just go for those 5, right? You don't need to
That
go
will
for
be
the
more
entire.
yeah, that will be more targeted and efficient, and probably by doing that, they might reduce the deficit because
They will reduce the deficits definitely. Like now, I think this was in a rush, because going product by product line is very difficult.
yeah,
Now,
it will take months.
but it is not as difficult as USTR is showing. It is basically very simple. You need to actually take out of it, is not tens and thousands of product, but it is the list of, in which way America doesn't manufacture too many things. So it is a and when they start manufacturing, they have to first see that what they manufacture actually gets sold. Mane,
Yes,
whether
outside
Trump is
US.
selling a Swiss watch or an American watch is very important. You
Yes.
understand? So therefore they have to also display their own things. They have to because if they are wearing a Swiss watch, then everybody should first start wearing an American watch, okay? And they cannot wear any, that is not a very easy way to go forward, because China went that way. Then nobody can buy Apple, everybody has to buy a Chinese made phone in the government. So now they have to do it. Everybody will buy Apple, everybody will only wear Apple watch, everybody will only drive American cars. So they
American.
should not sit in BMWs and all of that. Correct.
Yeah.
So if the policymakers, uh, the entire USTR team demonstrates that that is made in America, I think that will be great. But I am not sure whether America can go by their consumer choice to change their consumers' choice to product categories, to say that, okay, don't buy an Italian designer and buy an American designer. I don't think American consumers are ready for that. Suppose if you are an Indian, suppose I sit in India, will I buy Louis Vuitton made in India? So
Definitely no.
Americans will
No.
also not buy Louis Vuitton made in
Maybe.
America.
Yeah, because the only the
They,
status of Louis Vuitton is that it has been made, if I'm not wrong, it in Italy, right? So
So basically, if it is
yeah.
a French brand or an Italian brand, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that if it is a brand and you have the ability, you would not buy, any high-end Americans, any high-end businessman would not buy the product, buy the brand made in not the country, okay? So you are not going to buy, but you have three ranges. They do make in China, they do make in they also have partnerships in India and others. Many brands have that. But the fact remains is that when you buy a brand, for the brand value, you look at made in also, and you,
Made in
that's the
Mexico, correct.
price you pay for that brand, right? So
Exactly.
if it is made in Italy, you play the price for that made in Italy, right? So therefore, what will happen is that so therefore now that, and then there will be certain things which is a mass consumption, things like textile and apparel for the general population. Now the general population are price sensitive, so they would not like things to go up the roof and price rise. They
Definitely.
cannot afford that. So the general, now this is not looking at essential product versus luxury products.
Luxury products.
So
It's
when you
all in the
put in
same area.
tariff, you have to think by essential and luxury. You have to think by intermediate and final. These thoughts have not gone in. So the next level, either these thoughts will go in, then the results will be much more the way they want it. I must say. So you leave out the luxuries, because luxuries are something you can put a high end. If you put a tax of 100% in a luxury product, like Japan used to do, higher tax on luxury, people will still buy if they want to buy that luxury product. So
Yeah,
that's a
because they have
premium
money.
market.
Because
Hmm.
the people who are buying that high-end product, though they really don't care about that. Like in Indians buy so many, German cars, even they have 100% tariff. So for them it's fine. We have to talk about the common, from the common people perspective. Those products, will they buy, the cost which was like $100, now are they ready to pay $130? Maybe not. So that's I understand.
So they have to really rework and think about it. When fifth and so on fifth and ninth, when it is imposed, you have to then look at the changes in the trade pattern, and they have to think about it.
So that's great. Thank you so much, man. So last thing, one word for this entire tariff thing, and then we'll end this session.
This is an amazing time, I think, for trade economists. So we should keep on, monitoring it. But while monitoring, we should have a holistic approach. We should not take a position without really deep study.
Great. Thank you so much, Professor. It was quite interesting, and there are few things that people will get to know, because headlines say something else, but the when you get deeper, we'll get to know more. So thank you so much for coming to Economics Unplugged.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel Economics Unplugged with Praful Raj for more such insightful conversation on Indian economy. Thank you.